I came home early because I forgot my wallet. I didn't expect to walk into my bedroom and see my wife on her knees with a man who smelled like sewage and wore a city sanitation uniform. She didn't scream. She didn't hide. She just looked up at me, laughed, and said, "Wow, you're even more clueless than I thought." It was supposed to be a normal Tuesday. I had just left for work. I was already 10 minutes into my commute when I realized I'd left my wallet on the nightstand. I turned around, a little annoyed, thinking it would just take a minute. I didn't even text her. I figured she'd still be asleep. That was her usual routine: late mornings, coffee around 11, phone glued to her hand. When I walked in, everything seemed normal. Front door locked. Quiet house. I walked past the kitchen, started toward the bedroom, and then I heard something. Muffled voices. A low laugh. A woman's voice. Then a man's. I froze in the hallway. I know her laugh. I've heard it 1,000 times during movies, dates, random moments on the couch. But I'd never heard it like this. Low, teasing, breathless. I pushed the bedroom door open, and there she was, on her knees, with a man in a gray sanitation jumpsuit. His pants were halfway down. He had dirt under his nails. A bright orange city ID badge was clipped to his collar. And she was laughing. Laughing. When she saw me, she didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. She just looked me straight in the eye, smiled, and said, "Well, this is awkward." The man stepped back, confused. Is that your husband?" She stood up, wiped her mouth, and nodded casually. "Yup, that's him. Don't worry, he won't do anything. He never does." My hands were shaking. My throat tightened. I couldn't speak. She walked past me like nothing happened, grabbed a towel off the dresser, and started patting her hair dry. "Don't look so shocked," she said over her shoulder. "You really had no idea?" "Seriously." The guy tried to zip up his uniform, muttering something about being sorry, man. She scoffed. "Why are you apologizing to him? He's the one who's been blind for 2 years." She looked me dead in the face again and said, "You're just so trusting. It's almost cute. Like a little puppy who thinks nobody would ever hurt him." Then she laughed. I wanted to yell. I wanted to ask why. But all I could do was stand there, frozen, while she tossed the towel on the bed I bought, slipped into a hoodie, and walked out the room. The door slammed behind her, and I was left standing next to a man who still smelled like garbage and didn't know where to look. I didn't chase her. I didn't cry. I just stood there and realized I had no idea who I had been married to. She didn't come home that night. I sat in the kitchen for hours. I didn't touch the lights, didn't touch food. I just sat there, trying to understand, trying to convince myself it was a mistake, that maybe she was drunk, maybe she was angry, maybe I pushed her somehow. At 2:11 a.m., I texted her, "Please just come home so we can talk." She didn't reply. At 3:42, she finally walked in. No shame, no explanation. I stood up from the table. She glanced at me, then grabbed a water bottle from the fridge. "You're still up?" she asked. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She took a long sip, then leaned on the counter like we were just chatting after dinner. "Let me guess," she said, smirking. "You want to know why?" I nodded slowly. She sighed and rolled her eyes. "It's not about him. It's about me. And you. You're safe. Predictable. You'd never cheat, never lie, never even raise your voice. You're the guy moms want their daughters to marry." She smiled at me like that was a punchline. "But you're boring. You're always asking what I want. Always tiptoeing. Always trying too hard." I clenched my fists. "Did you ever love me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, come on," she said. "I loved the version of you that didn't cling, that didn't cry every time I got distant." "I didn't cry," I said, though I had. More than once. She walked past me, brushing her shoulder against mine. "You loved the idea of me," she continued. "But I needed someone with fire. Someone who takes what they want. Not someone who asks permission to kiss me in the middle of a movie." I swallowed hard. My chest felt hollow. "I would have forgiven you," I said quietly, "if you told me. If you were honest." She turned to face me. Something sharp flashed in her eyes. "That's the problem," she said. "You always would have forgiven me. That's why I stopped respecting you." That hit deeper than anything. She wasn't sorry. She was disappointed in how easily I let her break me. She took her phone, walked into the bedroom, and closed the door behind her. I didn't follow. I sat back down at the table and stared at the same spot on the floor where I'd dropped my keys earlier. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was watching myself from the outside. A man too weak to be angry, too soft to fight back, too broken to leave. I still wanted her to love me. Still thought maybe, somehow, I could fix it. And that's when I realized. She knew that. And she was never going to stop using it. The next morning, she was in the kitchen humming, frying eggs. Like nothing happened. She slid a plate in front of me. No onions, she said. Like you like it. I stared at the eggs, not moving. She sat across from me with her phone, smiling at whatever was on the screen. Probably texting him. Maybe someone else. Look, she said without lifting her eyes. You can stay miserable if you want. Or you can be grateful I'm still here. My throat tightened. She wasn't afraid of consequences. Because she didn't believe I had any in me. She thought I'd stay. She thought I'd forgive again. That's when it clicked. If I wanted her to feel what I felt, the helplessness, the betrayal, the humiliation, I couldn't cry. I had to be quiet. So I nodded. Thanks for breakfast, I whispered. She smiled. See? We're getting somewhere. That night, after she fell asleep, headphones in, face to the wall, I got out of bed and opened my laptop. I started small. Created a folder. Named it E. Inside, I made subfolders. Text threads, screenshots. Bank statements, joint plus hers. Hidden photos from her old phone she never reset. Recordings. She'd used the same password for everything for years. I never checked before. I thought that meant trust. Now it meant access. I found old messages with names I didn't recognize. One guy worked at a tire shop. Another was listed in her contacts as gym guy. She sent them the same pictures. Said the same lines. One message stuck with me. He doesn't even touch me anymore. I could sneak a whole parade past him, and he'd ask if I needed help carrying the flag. That was about me. I saved that too. Over the next week, I built her timeline. Every lie. Every overlap. Every time she said, I'm going to Target, and instead used a rideshare to someone's apartment. Then I got bolder. I requested a full copy of our lease. She wasn't on it. She'd never been added. Our home was legally mine. She always said it was our place. That's what made it harder to leave, she claimed. But now, that was leverage. I called a lawyer. Explained everything. Left out nothing. He told me, document. Stay quiet. Don't tip your hand. You'll only get one clean shot. I asked him what that meant. He said, when you move, it has to be surgical. No emotion. No chaos. Just consequences. That night, she came out of the bathroom in one of the shirts I bought her last Christmas. Do you still think I'm beautiful? She asked, smirking. I looked her in the eye. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled back. Always, I said. She walked past me with a laugh, not knowing that every step she took was helping me build the case. Not for court. For regret. She was still asleep when I left the apartment that morning. I let the door close softly behind me, walked 2 blocks, and caught a rideshare to the notary office. The envelope I carried was sealed. Inside, a letter of intent to terminate cohabitation and demand to vacate. My lawyer helped me word it perfectly. Cold. Precise. Legal. I made 3 copies. One for her. One for my records. One for the building's management. I walked in just before lunch and handed it to our landlord, Greg. He looked confused. Didn't even know she wasn't on the lease, he said. She seemed so permanent. I nodded. She's not. Greg flipped through the papers and gave a low whistle. You're serious about this? Dead serious. He folded the letter, placed it in a file. She'll have 30 days, he said. But we can start the clock now. That night, I made dinner. Pasta. Her favorite. She came home late, smelled like cheap cologne and cheap wine. Dropped her purse by the couch. Something smells amazing, she said, kicking off her shoes. It's for you, I said. She looked surprised. Well, you're really trying now. She poured herself a glass of wine, sat down, and started eating. Halfway through the meal, I slid the envelope across the table. What's this? She asked, mouthful. Read it. She opened it. Read the first paragraph. Then again. And again. What is this? She said, her voice suddenly tight. It's your 30-day notice to vacate. She blinked. You can't be serious. I'm not asking. It's already filed. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the paper. Where am I supposed to go? She asked, quieter now. You've got plenty of friends, I said. Or whoever you're spending your nights with. She stood up. You're doing this now? After everything I've given you? I tilted my head. You mean the cheating? The laughing in my face? The way you paraded that garbage worker through our bed like I wasn't even alive? She stared at me. And for the first time, she didn't have a comeback. I stood. I want you out, I said. And don't think about fighting it. You're not on the lease. Legally, you're a guest. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I walked past her, took her wine, and poured it down the drain. You always said I was weak, I said. Let's see how strong I look from the outside. She didn't scream, didn't cry. She just walked into the bedroom and slammed the door. But I heard it, the sound of her zipping open drawers, yanking hangers off racks. She knew. This wasn't like the other times. This wasn't me forgiving. This was me starting over without her. And for the first time since I caught her on her knees. I felt taller than she'd ever let me be. She disappeared for 2 days after I gave her the notice. No calls. No texts. Not a single word. I thought maybe it worked. Maybe I'd broken through whatever game she'd been playing. But on the third morning, I opened my front door to find a yellow envelope taped to it. From her lawyer. Inside, a letter claiming emotional distress, wrongful eviction, and harassment. A warning that if I continued to weaponize the lease to exert psychological control, she would pursue a protective order and file a formal complaint against me with local authorities. I stood in the hallway reading it over and over, my hands going cold. She'd flipped it, turned my defense into an attack. I called my lawyer. She's bluffing, he said. But she's not stupid. She's setting you up for a pattern of behavior. A pattern. I asked. Yeah, he said. She wants to provoke you into doing something she can prove. You push too hard, she files. You stay quiet, she builds sympathy. Either way, you lose, unless we stay calm. I hung up, but inside, I was shaking. I went online later that night. Her social media accounts were back up private but active. I created a dummy profile and checked her newest post. It was a photo of her at a coffee shop, eyes red, hand on her cheek. Caption. Some people think breaking your home is power, but survival is stronger. Still standing. Still healing. Comments poured in. You're so brave. She doesn't deserve this. You got this, queen. She was spinning it, positioning herself as the victim. And I was the villain. I wanted to scream, to post the screenshots, the photos, the truth. But my lawyer warned me. You go public now, she drags you into court. You go quiet, you wait for her next mistake. That mistake came 2 days later. But before that, she made another move. A letter arrived at my job's HR office. Anonymous. Claiming I'd harassed a partner and had multiple women complain of obsessive behavior. It was vague. No names. No dates. But it was enough to trigger a routine review of my conduct. HR called me in. Asked if I was okay at home. Asked if there was anything I wanted to disclose. I felt like the floor was falling out from under me. She wasn't just fighting me. She was erasing me. Bit by bit. Credibility. Trust. Position. And I knew if I made one wrong move, even one, she'd take the rest. But that night, something unexpected happened. I got a message. From someone I didn't know. 3 words. She did it before. Attached was a name. And a link. To someone else. Someone who'd lived this exact nightmare, years earlier. And suddenly, I wasn't alone anymore. She thought she was burying me. But what she didn't know was, she just dug her own second grave. I opened the message 10 times before replying. The link led to a Reddit thread from 2 years ago. Buried. Low traffic. Just a single post. A guy named Nolan described how his ex manipulated a housing situation, lied to his employer, fabricated emotional abuse, and made herself out to be the survivor of a breakup she engineered. The story was too close to mine. Too specific. He even described the same exact phrase she once used on me. You're safe to hurt because you never fight back. My hands went cold. I sent him a message. He replied within the hour. Her name's Rebecca, right? I almost dropped the phone. Yeah, you're not the first. She did the same thing to me. Got me written up at work. Filed a fake complaint. Ghosted once she drained my savings. He had receipts. Emails. Screenshots. Venmo transfers. Fake crying selfies. Everything she used on me, she'd tested on someone else before. We spent 2 hours on a call. He sent me everything. And I knew exactly what to do. The next day, I met with my lawyer. We filed a formal response to her eviction challenge, backed with a packet of evidence that now included a documented pattern of malicious behavior. We also filed a preemptive motion to block any future protective order attempts unless she could provide new and independent proof. My lawyer said, this is the first time we're truly ahead. But I didn't stop there. I contacted the HR director at my company. Privately, I asked for an in-person meeting. I brought a physical folder, timestamps of her fake accounts, the Reddit thread, my clean conduct record, even Nolan's notarized statement. I laid it all out. She looked stunned. "You need to understand," I said, voice low. "If this narrative continues, she's not just hurting me, she's building a lie that could destroy others, too." My jaw backed off. No more reviews. No more side glances. Just silence. Safe silence. When I came home that night, she was waiting for me in the kitchen. Glass of wine. Calm. Fake concern on her face. "I've been thinking," she said, sitting on the counter. "Maybe we can settle things without lawyers." I stared at her, not answering. You get what you want. I get what I want. No court. No noise. I tilted my head. "And what do you want?" She smiled sweetly. "My reputation. My peace. And your silence." I stepped forward, pulled out my phone, and slid it across the counter. She looked down. It was a screenshot. Her and Nolan, laughing, arms around each other. Dated 2 years ago. The caption said, "He still thinks I loved him, LOL." Her face dropped. I leaned in. "You're not the first," I whispered. "But I'll make sure I'm the last." She didn't say anything. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. And for the first time, she looked scared. Now I had the leverage. And I wasn't done pulling. 3 days of silence. She didn't text. Didn't call. No lawyers. No letters. She was just there, moving quietly through the apartment like a ghost. Calm. Controlled. Watching. I knew it was a setup. I should have been ready. But I wasn't. It happened on a Thursday. I got home from work, and everything looked normal until I opened the door and saw a police officer standing in the living room. She sat across from him on the couch, legs crossed, mascara smudged perfectly, like she'd practiced. The officer turned toward me. "Mr. Porter?" "Yes." "We received a report of a domestic incident. Ms. Reed says you've been threatening her verbally, following her, possibly accessing her digital accounts without consent." My heart dropped. I looked at her. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Instead, she looked at her hands and sniffled. I wanted to scream. I wanted to show the screenshots, the witness, the timeline, but this wasn't a courtroom. It was a stage. And she had the lights. "I haven't laid a finger on her," I said. "Everything she's saying is false." The officer nodded but didn't look convinced. "Look," he said, "there's no formal charges right now. This is just a check-in. A report's been logged. If things escalate, you'll be hearing from us again." He left 5 minutes later. She followed him to the door. Even thanked him. Then turned to me with that same smirk I remembered from the day I caught her with the garbage worker. "You should have stopped," she whispered. I clenched my fists, but I didn't respond. Because I knew exactly what she wanted. A reaction. The next day, I got a call from my leasing office. "We've been notified of an ongoing domestic situation. Out of precaution, we're freezing any tenant modifications until further legal review." Translation? She blocked my eviction effort. Again. But that wasn't all. That night, her social media exploded. A carefully written, "I'm safe" post. Something about getting help and leaving a situation that looked good from the outside but was quietly destroying me. She disabled comments, of course. But the shares started piling up. Messages rolled in. From people I knew. Did something happen? She said she was scared for her safety. Is everything okay? Man, I didn't know it got that bad. And just like that, I was the monster again. She'd erased Nolan. Erased the screenshots. Erased the fact that I never once raised my voice, let alone my hands. She knew exactly how much truth people could stomach. And she knew it was less than one good story. I felt the walls closing in again. But I wasn't who I used to be. Because later that night, I got an alert. She tried logging into my email. The one I'd already secured. And in that moment, I realized. She wasn't protecting herself. She was digging. Looking for what I had. Because deep down, she knew I wasn't bluffing. And I still had something left. Something she hadn't touched yet. And when I used it, she wouldn't recover. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't eat the next day either. While she posted vague quotes about healing and escaping toxicity, I sat in silence, building the strike that would leave her no defense. Not through noise. Through documents. I went back to Nolan's file. Reviewed every transaction she had ever made from his account. Cross-referenced it with what she'd done to me. Same patterns. Same tactics. Fake rent requests. Duplicate Venmo charges. Shared credit cards opened in her name, closed in his. But there was one key difference now. Nolan never had a lawyer. I did. And mine was ready. We filed a packet, 41 pages. Included evidence of financial misconduct across 2 relationships. Proof of false police reports filed for leverage. Recordings of contradicting statements she made about abuse. Bank activities showing personal expenses paid from our joint account, including gifts for other men. The complaint was sealed and submitted to a state fraud unit, not as a domestic matter, but as a pattern of financial manipulation across state lines. Then we did something she didn't expect. We sent a copy of the affidavit to her employer's compliance division. Quietly. Formally. No drama. She didn't know yet. That same day, I walked into our apartment to find her sitting on the floor, yoga mat spread out, pretending to meditate. "Feeling better?" she asked. I still closed. I didn't answer. I just set a large yellow envelope on the table. "What's that?" she asked. "You'll know soon," I said. I went to my room. An hour later, I heard the buzz. Her phone blew up. I heard the panic in her voice before I even saw her. She ran down the hall. "You sent them something?" I said nothing. "You contacted my job?" Still nothing. She came closer. "What did you do?" I looked at her and said, "I gave them the facts. Just like you gave the internet stories." She stood there trembling. But I wasn't done. I slid a small flash drive across the table. "Everything I've collected. Every lie. Every file. Every time you tried to make me look dangerous, when the only thing I ever did was not leave sooner." She didn't move. "Use it however you want," I said. "Or burn it. Makes no difference to me. The truth's already out." She looked down at the drive, then at me. And for once, she looked small. She whispered, "You're trying to ruin me." I shook my head slowly. "No. You did that all on your own." That night, she packed 2 bags and left without a word. But I knew it wasn't over. Because women like her don't lose. They just reset. And I was ready. Because this time, I'd set the trap before she knew the game had even changed. She vanished for 4 days. No texts. No social posts. No calls. No noise. At first, I thought it was over. That I'd finally buried the war. But then came the envelope. Plain. Unmarked. Inside, a legal summons. Civil suit for defamation, emotional damages, and career sabotage. Filed under her name. Filed using my own evidence. Somehow, she'd flipped the timeline. Claimed my affidavit to the fraud unit was a retaliatory fabrication filed after she refused to take me back. Claimed I was obsessed, unhinged, and had hacked her communications to create false proof. The documents were clean, cold, professional, and terrifyingly convincing. She'd lawyered up, real this time. And she'd weaponized the very facts I thought would protect me. My stomach dropped as I flipped through the complaint. She'd even included screenshots of our text exchanges, carefully cropped to show her as calm, me as threatening. She included my therapist's name, my HR director's name, even Nolan's. I called my lawyer. He sighed. "She's good," he said. "Not truthful, but tactical. If this gets to court, she'll play victim better than you ever could." "What do we do?" I asked. "Pray she slips." But she didn't. The next morning, I got a call from my employer. "We've been notified of a civil suit involving your name. As a precaution, we're placing you on unpaid leave until further notice." I couldn't breathe. Then the email started. Friends. Family. People I hadn't spoken to in years. "What's going on?" "She says you followed her to work. Did you really try to take her career down out of revenge?" She had turned it all upside down. I was the stalker. I was the abuser. I was the threat. And there wasn't a single video of her laughing in my face, or smiling while lying, or whispering to other men in my bedroom that anyone cared to see now. She was winning. Again. I sat on the floor of my living room with everything, every folder, every note, every piece of evidence, spread out like pieces of a broken mirror. I had lost. Not because I was wrong, but because she was better at the performance. I closed my laptop, picked up the flash drive, opened the drawer where I kept the original files, all the backups. And that's when I noticed something strange. One of the folders was different, dated 5 years ago, before I ever met her. I clicked it open. Inside, a scanned document. Legal. Settlement agreement. Civil fraud. Sealed under confidentiality. And the name listed? Hers. But not just hers. Also her sister's. I kept reading. Multiple names. Multiple filings. Multiple payouts. She wasn't just cruel. She was running a pattern with help. And now? I had more than leverage. I had a legacy, a trail, a network, and if I used it right, she wouldn't just lose the case. She'd lose everything. I didn't sleep that night. I just read, line by line, year by year. Each file in that old hidden folder was like pulling back the curtain on a lifetime of calculated destruction. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just Nolan. It wasn't even just relationships. It was a business. Small cons identity tweaks. Legal settlements. Always just under the threshold of prosecution. Always sealed. Always cleaned up. I counted 6 names connected to her, at least 3 confirmed blood relatives, all involved in similar filings across 3 states. One pattern kept repeating. Seduce. Embed. Drain. Cry. Collect. Every time, they walked away richer. And cleaner. Until now. Because this time, someone didn't fold. I called a journalist. A local investigations editor. Quiet but relentless. Someone Nolan had once spoken to but backed away from out of fear. I sent him everything. Told him to hold it for 48 hours. Then I printed a copy of my final move, a federal disclosure packet, to be submitted to 3 agencies. IRS, Consumer Protection Bureau, State Bar Association. Inside? Names, dates, accounts, statements, every shell document I found. I didn't file it yet. Instead, I called her, told her to come to the apartment. Alone. She arrived within the hour. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Dressed like someone going to court, not war. She walked in cautiously. What is this? I slid the thick envelope across the table. She opened it. Flipped through. Her hands started to shake by page 4. By page 12, her face was pale. By page 20, she looked like she might vomit. I said nothing. Then finally, softly, she asked, "What is this?" "My final move," I said. She shook her head. "You destroy me." "No," I said. "You already did that. To yourself." I just stopped looking away. Tears welled in her eyes. "I can't come back from this," she whispered. "If you file this, I won't just lose my job. I'll lose my name. My family." She fell to her knees. Right there. No pretense. No act. For the first time, she wasn't playing. "I'm begging you," she said, her voice cracking. "Please don't do this. I was wrong. I know that now. Just, please. I'll disappear. You'll never hear from me again." Silence. I watched her. Not with anger. Not even with satisfaction. Just stillness. Then I stood up, took the envelope back, and walked it to the shredder. She gasped. "You're not filing it?" "No," I said. "Why?" I looked down at her, on her knees, hands clasped like someone at church. And I said, "What would you do in my place?"